The information presented is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of any Daikin company. This information should not be confused for accounting, legal, medical, or other professional advice. Please seek advice from a qualified professional for any specific questions.
Welcome to the Accelerated HVAC Success Program. My name is Ben Middleton. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for the Goodman, Amana, and Daikin brands. Today, we're joined here with Crystal Williams with Lemon Seed. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
So you've been here before, but for the other guests that have not heard from you before, tell me a little bit, how did you get into the HVAC industry?
Oh, gosh, I'm a trade baby, as I call it. So I hashtag trade baby. So my grandfather retired from the Navy, started our family's heating and air conditioning company. Then my dad worked there and he sold it to my dad. Then my brother worked there and he sold it to my brother. And I decided I was never going to work in the heating and air conditioning industry because I had grown up with it and I was going to go do my own thing. But 2014 rolled around and my brother called me. I had graduated with my marketing degree from SFA, Axum Jacks there in East Texas. And my brother called and said, hey, I am ready to like really hit the gas on our marketing and even like co-op and things like that and employees and all the things that encompass, as he calls it, the foo-foo side of the business. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just didn't know if you'd be willing to come back. And so I said, let's do it. And so my family has a really good working dynamic together. So we're blessed with that. So started doing that and did that we grew exponentially starting in about 2011. My dad had taken some really good steps and then we just started growing and growing and growing and people were taking notice and like, how'd y'all get here? And so my brother came to me and said, well, what if you just kind of go off and do this on your own? And so that's how Lemon Seed was born. So literally from working alongside in an office I actually dispatched from a radio. I know a lot of people don't even know what that's like, but like base to unit 101 in the field.
Did you have the alphanumeric pagers too?
Yes. All of the things that date me a little bit, we did that. So I just have a passion for contractors that are just trying to be good family driven people and have good places to work. And so it's really been a great experience, but been here and live that life every day.
Trade baby. And that's so interesting. When we think about our industry, there's a couple of different categories of companies, if you will. There are the generational companies that have been around for a long time and those that have grown up in the trades. Then you have those technicians that are really, really good installers, really good service people, that decide to go out and start their own business from scratch. And then you have maybe some salespeople that were really, really good salespeople that say, hey, I'm going to go start my own business. And this is it's a wonderful industry to be in.
It is.
We learned during COVID, this absolutely is an essential business. Everybody needs heating and air conditioning.
Well, we live in Texas, so we for sure need air conditioning.
And so with all of that being said, I think we get really great people that know how to work on heating and air conditioning, understand how to design heating and air conditioning systems, but marketing is something that really, that's not a skill that a lot of people bring to the table.
No. And you know, you're exactly right. Tons of great technicians that love to, and they'll tell me, like they'll call me and say, I can fix anything. I can sell anything. I can install anything. I do not understand the words that y'all speak when it comes to marketing. And a lot of them have a basic understanding of what they should be doing, but how to do it is very foreign to them. And then they are busy working in the business a lot still. And so really learning how to take themselves and push themselves to learn the nomenclature that is marketing speak. It is for sure has been a challenge.
And then, I mean, obviously in the last couple of years, digital marketing has really become a big hot topic in our industry, which is one aspect of it.
Yes. Yes.
You still have the billboard person that's coming out and talking to you about why billboards are important. You have the radio stations coming and knocking on your door and saying, you need to talk to us. You may even still have the newspaper person coming and talking to you and TV. And so there's all of these different salespeople knocking on the door saying, hey, I want a little bit of your budget.
Right.
What does a contractor do?
Yeah. So that is my favorite. That's my favorite question because the answer is all of it. And so that's not a popular answer because a lot of times we don't have the money to do all of it. We don't have the know-how to make it all integrated and put it all together. And so what happens is we get overwhelmed and we just fall back on the traditional driver, which is digital marketing. Digital marketing is definitely a huge cornerstone piece of anybody's marketing strategy, especially now. So when we first started, I mean, we were one of the first, my family's company, we were one of the first companies that had a website. So, we tried to be early adopters, even without knowing exactly what you're doing. You just try to start some things. But, it kind of goes back to, and you've heard this story because I love to tell it, the perfect persona, the avatar of who we're speaking to. So when I start with clients, I'm always like, who are we talking to? I actually had my first demographic that proved to be a 35 to 45-year-old male. I was very shocked when all of that data come back, because normally we're going to be speaking to females 99% of the time. But this client was actually a lot closer to the DC market. And so come to find out, it was a lot of the homeowners in her space were single or newly married, old. I say older, nobody panic with that, but not 25, but a new home. And I was like, man, it's the first time for me, because it changes the game of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And so I use the example all the time of Yellow Bear Yolanda. Yellow Bear is my fake company, of course, yellow for lemon seed, but with Yellow Bear Yolanda, I know exactly who she is as a person. In East Texas, if you will, if she were for my family's company, she probably lives on acreage. And she probably takes care of grandkids. I live in the Bible Belt. She's probably just got back from or headed to a church event of some sort. She probably is a baker, a home cook. She shops locally. She likes the farmer's market. She probably has a dog. They probably travel. So there's all of these little unique idiosyncrasies, if you will, of these people that make up enough for us to know how do we write our messaging. So when I layer on, we start layering your marketing on, we know what to layer and when to layer. So a lot of times it's like going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor and then immediately say, here's blood pressure pills. They have to do some sort of, they have to look you over, right? They've got to see what's going on, and then they prescribe. So it's the same thing with marketing. Who are we talking to? What's going on? What do we need to fix? What do we need to add? And then we formulate a prescription for success, which is your marketing plan. And a lot of times that's when the layers start mattering. So those of you that are in a super busy market, digital or super metro market, I should say, the Phoenix, the Dallas, San Antonio, Chicago style places, that Atlanta, that are very saturated, you have to play the digital game. And if you can afford to play it, I mean, jump in there. But digital cannot be the only place that you live.
Right.
Because it's really, if no one's searching for your services, then you're dead in the water, which is what happened to a lot of our contractors in early 2022-ish. Just people had already replaced systems. We were living this weird political thing going on with COVID monies and all that jazz. And so I really saw it then. People that had invested in a layered approach with the mass media and all of that were in a much better place than people that put all of their eggs in the digital basket. And so I recommend that we look at digital, definitely a big cornerstone piece, like I mentioned, but taking who Yolanda is, who your avatar is, and layering on these other pieces. And so again, if you're in rural markets, you actually can buy traditional TV. You can have traditional radio with a good jingle. It's not directionally going to drive leads as far as tons of people just immediately calling you, but it's all about building out a marathon strategy of just a solid thought provoking, as I say, it should make you think every single day that you're evaluating where you're spending your marketing dollars. Because when you have a layered approach, you're just much more able to pivot in different places, and you're not just, as I say, sitting dead in the water when one of those tactics doesn't perform.
And there may be, there's so many nuances that you have to pay attention to. We were talking a little bit before we got on this. It's the hero's journey. What is the origin story for that particular business?
Yes.
Because your business may, really speak to one specific psychographic in that particular marketplace, but another business may speak to a completely different one. When you talk about these big metro areas, you have all of these subgroups of customers that are living in there. And one interesting thing that I've talked to a lot of companies about, you could have 20 companies in the same market and they're all speaking to different customers.
Yes. Yes, different age brackets, different financial brackets, these especially neighborhood specific things. And it really is all about creating your identity as a company and then going after your customer. It's when we try to own everyone. And I say this too all the time. If you're trying to talk to everyone, you're talking to no one.
Right.
You cannot, there's no way a marketing message speaks to Ben and to Crystal the same way. It just doesn't. We live different lives. We live different places. There's just so many different caveats. And so I promise you, if you will sit down as a contractor and look at some data, I mean, even look at census data, because also like we're not as important as we think we are in our market. Like that's another thing. Sometimes I have to tell contractors, like, do people know? Because people, everybody knows my name. Okay. Probably not, so there is a section of the market that does not know you or may not like you. Either way, there's sections there. So at least do some due diligence there of researching, but really trying to understand, like, I'm going after the 45 to 50-year-old female that has older teenagers at home that is attending every sporting event. So when those sporting people knock on your door for a sponsorship, you look back over here and say, oh yeah, my avatar, she's probably at those football games. I'm going to sponsor a Battle of the Bands contest. Is that going to drive me selling a new system that day? No, but it does make my name sticky in all of those people's heads that I want to be in front of. And that's why it's important to really identify who your Yolanda is, because if not, don't be on Dallas Cowboy radio. I don't know. I heard nobody hates me for that, but I'm from Texas. So, but if you're going to, I have contractors all the time. I am on Major League Baseball radio. Because we just like to throw our money out the window, or I love baseball.
Well, they like to hear themselves on the radio, right? So that's the radio station I'm listening to. I want to hear my ads.
Correct. And I'm like, yeah, so that's not the right person that we're talking to. So you can spend it. You just it's your money. You just need to know that is not actually reaching who we're trying to buy. But again, if you want to make that intentional decision, at least it was intentional. And you didn't think you were really driving a lot of leads from that.
It's so interesting. I was talking to a different manufacturer, and you'll see some of these billboard campaigns or television campaigns, and this absolutely just it hurt my soul when I heard this. They
said, I already know where this conversation's going.
They said, we've got these co-op dollars, and we have contractors that buy into these programs, but they said, you know what? The biggest thing we get is it's targeting other contractors.
Yeah, because we speak the language of contractors.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening is they actually are able to recruit more dealers because the ads are not going after homeowners, but other contractors are seeing this and saying, I want to be on this television ad. I want to be on this radio ad. I want to be on this billboard. And it just hurt my soul because it's like you've got contractors paying money to get more competitors in their marketplace.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. So I do make this little joke with my contractors all the time. When we do co-op for our clients, I follow the rules, but literally the very minimum of the rules, because at the end of the day, we will sell more equipment. We will move more boxes, as I tell my contractors, if we can get our brand positioned correctly in the market.
Right.
And so co-op dollars are fantastic. I ask everyone, why are you not? Do you know, I have people tell me all the time, I haven't used my co-op dollars in 3 years. I'm like, it's wild to me. It's because, again, they cannot formulate, what do I do with it? And then how do I submit for it and all of that? It's not, the process here is build out your brand and then accentuate it with your co-op dollars. And it is extra money to add into your marketing, but build who you are and you will move more boxes. And it is a fine line there. I watch people mess that up on the daily. So I can fully understand. Absolutely.
So I that's one of the things I'm really happy about with the Goodman, Amana, Daikin brands is we try to give everybody so much flexibility.
Yes.
And it's different. It's not co-op, it's accruals.
Correct.
And so you use 100% of this money, and really it's all about how do we help you promote yourself as a contractor?
And I can attest to that, that is very true. And again, I think having a partnership where they understand that is very key when making those choices, because it's knowing that your partner sees the vision is much more important. And again, I've been able to tell people numerous times, if you will grow your brand presence, who you are, and we were laughing earlier, if your vans look good and your CSRs answer the phone well and you present well and you follow up and everything's nice and tidy and neat and your marketing looks, that is what is going to build this solid foundational piece. You will exponentially grow because people know of you and they can trust and they value what you're putting out into the market versus the competitors that are probably sloppy in places,
Right.
even the big guys. Remember, the larger those companies are, the harder it is to keep their eyes on every little piece. And so sometimes I'm like, look, you're a small guy. You're a lot more fluid. You have a lot more flexibility. You can pivot faster. So pivot when you need to pivot. And just don't, I always say, just get in the mix here. Utilize your resources like your partnerships and really build your brand. And so that's great for them.
Well, that's why it's so important to have brand standards.
Yes.
To understand, what are our brand standards and make sure all of your people understand those brand standards. I think of some of the iconic brands that are out there. Everybody knows if I bring up Chick-fil-A, what you're going to expect.
The Lord's Chicken.
Yes, the Lord's Chicken. You know what you're going to expect when you go to a Chick-fil-A. You're going to get people that are going to be polite and they're going to appreciate that you're coming out to the business. You understand that there's going to be a long line outside of there during lunchtime, but you get consistency with the food. The experience of the food is going to be very consistent because they have very strict brand standards that they adhere to. You won't find any of those open on Sunday.
No. Because it's a part of who they are. It's their culture. And, they also probably inspect what they expect. So, a lot of times, and my brother was, I hate to say I learned something from him again, but I did learn a couple of years ago, we made this, he's like, because I was saying like, what KPIs should I be, should my contractors be holding their people accountable for? Dinner talk for trade babies, as I say. But we were just talking about it. And he said, well, my biggest goal is to never have a KPI that I can't truly track. And so it might sound fantastic, but if I don't ever inspect it or actually am able to show the actual parameters, then why am I requesting it? And so I think about that with brand expectations. If the expectation is that my van is clean, my hats and trash is not stuck all in my dashboard, if I'm not supposed to be smoking when I pull up, whatever your rules are you actually inspecting those things to protect your brand? I mean, contractors, we have to have full ownership of what we look like. And how we are perceived in the market. So, and same thing goes even for our public, how we look in public. So if we are, I call them Facebook ranters, keyboard warriors, and you own a company that you promote also, people naturally associate that. So if you are, it takes one to know one, but if you're a loudmouth, and you get out there and that is going to be the perception that people might have around your brand or allowing your team members. The other day McWilliams got a negative review. And I looked, and the guy I'm going to say accidentally ran over a mailbox. We've all had a van hit a mailbox, right? But the review came back later, and they said they apologized, and they were like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. He did hit it, but he also got out and put it back up and straightened it back up." And I noticed that they had sent some messages, and so it was very much like, hey, integrity, right? Like they did the right thing because they knew that if we had done that and not rectify the situation, because there's brand standards that go above, like make sure your shirt's tucked in. It's how we carry ourselves and how we, again, Bible Belt, we pull over for a funeral procession. We're not please do not drive our billboard of a van down the middle of a funeral procession, because it's just not on brand. So inspecting those things, and then you have to follow the leader. So if your leadership is lacking in it, of the brand standards that you set of, hey, this is what we wear, this is how we present the brand, then you'll struggle to have followers.
I think that's so important because we are all going to have mistakes that our people make, right? I remember getting a call from McDonald's because our guys on lunch break decided to drive the installation truck through the drive-through, and they got stuck underneath the drive-through because they didn't look at the height clearance.
Oh, gosh.
And so
during rush hour of lunch.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah.
And so it's how you handle that event and what your guys do. Our guys actually, they got out and of course they apologized, but then they actually helped the drive-through people pass bags to people as they're going through. And so we kind of made the best of the situation that we could,
right,
until the tow truck could get and pull them out from underneath.
Oh my gosh. Well, it comes down to, branding is how you make people feel. It's not a logo. Really, when people say, oh, my brand, a lot of times they're talking about their logo. Well, I'm talking about how you make people feel. So right then we have to look at those as it was an opportunity. How do I win this terrible this situation that I'm in? It was a win because then you have to communicate that perception that you want to have across all of these pieces of a marketing plan, and not try to get overwhelmed with all the choices, but more just being intentional. Like if you've got a mascot or anything like that, visual things are going to be important so that people make the visual connection with the dog or the soup, whatever you've got, and your look and feel. And so you're right. It's just understanding that the brand goes deeper than what my logo is on my truck.
One of our contractors was sharing a story with me. He was driving. He's out in San Diego, driving down the freeway, and he gets a call from the office. And I say, hey, I've got a customer. One of our trucks just cut them off on the freeway. They're upset. They want to talk to the owner.
Oh, it was the owner, wasn't it?
It was the owner. And so he says, well, sure, patch him on through. And so where are you at? And she explains where she's at. And he goes, oh, I am so sorry. That was me. In fact, what are you driving? And the person said what they're driving. He said, I am literally right in front of you right now. And he slows down, waves to the person. He says, tell you what, I am going to give you a free tune-up on us.
Yeah.
Because I apologize. I was late for an appointment and I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
But again, it's what you do with that situation.
Yes. These are opportunities. Same thing with 1-star reviews or something. I tell my people, do not take this to the public ring of let's see who all can jump in here. It will become like WWE meets the internet. So try to get it offline, but try to make it right and then go back and tell on your response how you made it right, because integrity, honesty, those are what people are looking for. And so I'm not afraid of a 1-star review. I'm more afraid of our response to a 1-star review, because it's not an opportunity to show out. We want to, it's an opportunity to win.
But going back, tying this all together,
Sure.
It all goes to those brand standards, right?
Yep.
Our people need to understand who we are as a brand.
Yes.
When our people understand how we want to represent ourselves in the marketplace, they are going to respond in those situations. And that's going to make a huge difference.
Yes, that's right. And again, I want to encourage people, like sometimes people are like, what would you say to contractors? Understand your brand and let it really be who you are as a person. And my mom used to tell me, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you never have to remember what you told somebody if you just tell the truth from the beginning. It's the same thing when you talk about your brand. You don't ever have to remember your brand story if it is your story. And so sometimes it's just understanding that story and the expectations that you put with it, and really putting that on display across all of your advertising and your messaging. And it will help you. It might be a slow creep for a little bit, but you will eventually look up and be winning the day.
So what you're telling me is branding is not snowflakes and flames. It's not 24-hour service. It's not we do the job right the first time.
Family owned and operated. And used to, those were unique things. Like when people started making logos with thermometers, it was earth shattering.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, as soon as I pull up a new client, I'm like, oh, so you have a sunshine. That's fun. How are we going to change that? Because again, I was having a good conversation with a client. I said, to me, every 5 to 8 years, and I know that's a good range, but depending on the size of your company, you probably need to be refreshing your look anyway. Not maybe a big drastic change by any means, but it's kind of like when I grew up in my house, we had wallpaper everywhere. It was at the time, it was beautiful. Now I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, what were we thinking? Right? What were we thinking? Well, we were thinking in the 90s. That's what we were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing happens now. I can look at logos and literally say, when did you get this done? Like early 2000s? And like, how'd you know that? I'm like, because it was trendy then. And there's trends right now that are all over the place with big rebrands, people spending tons of money to get these things rebranded. Just know that as far as your look goes, we have to be looking at that also from we want to look fresh and modern. So we have to kind of keep that up.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And you see that even with the major brands that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at a can of Coke from the 90s and one today, they don't look the same.
Nope. They've just drastic, basically slow and steady.
Mm-hmm.
They make these, sometimes they're inconspicuous changes that you really even notice, but sometimes you're like, oh, what happened there? What happened in 98?
Yeah.
You know, because we added, we went from a swoosh, which is also pretty popular, to 3 characters for my family's company. And that was a big deal, but we kept that and just modified it for several years. And so, yeah, it's definitely not, don't feel like you're changing too much if you're just updating every so often.
So, Crystal, if a contractor is saying, hey, this is a lot that you guys are talking about, how would they work with, what does it look like when they want to work with Lemon Seed to really talk through these and understand these things?
Sure. So Lemon Seed, I told you, kind of born from my brother saying, I don't want to handle all of this. So we handle all of this from a creative strategy style point. So we are not a digital agency. We're not a billboard agency. But what we are is a branding agency that helps you tell your story, get your offers out there, keep yourself in front of your target market all the time. And so the first thing you do when you onboard with Lemon Seed is an audit. And so we're going to go look at your competitors. We're going to look at your brand. We're going to look at what you're currently doing. And literally I think I'm in a phone book, but I think I do website with this person. We look at all of that and we formulate a prescription for how we're going to do it. And then you meet with my team monthly or bi-weekly to go over that strategy and how things are performing. We use your own databases. So if you're with a different CRM, Field Edge, Payzer, whatever you've got going on, we look into all of those. And so we are your marketing coach, basically helping you just know what to do and when to do it. And then we slap your hand and say, we're not doing that, you know, but kindly.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that's exactly what we're here to help. And so we pride ourselves on being affordable, and we actually have some opportunities to use your accrual dollars and co-op dollars as well. So we're working on more and more of that. So we're glad to help.
Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any last words of wisdom or thoughts as somebody's starting to think about their marketing strategy as we go into our heating season this year?
Yeah. So what got you here revenue-wise will not get you there. So you got to always be looking to what can you add and what can you do to keep driving in new leads. So go for it.
Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming in here. And for all of you that are out there, please go ahead and hit that like button if you like this episode. Also, make sure that you hit that follow button so you're informed of all of the upcoming episodes that we have. And we'll see all of you very soon.